Before we begin, I need for everyone to take out their cell phone or any other type of electronic device you may have that makes noise. I need you to put it on silent. If you do not know how to put it on silent, you need to turn that device off for the duration of the ceremony. Please remember to keep your mask on for the entire ceremony. Also remember to keep that appointment letter out because at the end of the ceremony, that is what you will give to the officer to receive your certificate. All right. Hearing. The United States District Court for the Eastern District is now open. The Honorable Judge will now preside. All persons having business before this honorable court are admonished to draw near and to give their attention. The court is now in session. God save the United States and this honorable court.
Morning. Exciting day for you all. My name is Bill Duffin. I'm one of the magistrate judges here in the Eastern District of Wisconsin, and it's my honor to preside over your naturalization ceremony. This morning, we have 25 applicants from 14 different countries around the world. What I'd like to do is read off the name of the countries that you're all from. And when you hear the name of your country, just raise your hand so everybody can get some sense as to where everybody's from. So start off with Afghanistan. Who's here from Afghanistan? Welcome. Good morning. Bangladesh. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Burma. It's a big Burma contingent at the 9 o'clock as well. Good morning to you all. Congo, Brazzaville. And Congo, Kinshasa. Morning. India. From India, welcome. Iraq. Several from Iraq. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Mexico. From Mexico, welcome to you both. Liberia. Welcome. Good morning. Somalia. Who's here from Somalia? Welcome. Good morning. Thailand. Welcome. The UK, United Kingdom. Welcome. Good morning. Vietnam. Welcome. Good morning. And last but not least, Zambia. Welcome back there in the corner. All right. Before we get started, as part of this process here today, a representative from the U.S. Immigration Service, Officer Moore, has a motion to present to me. Officer Moore.
Morning, Your Honor.
Morning.
My name is Thomas Moore. I'm a designated officer of the U.S. Citizenship Immigration Services Law in Wisconsin. This morning, Your Honor, I have a motion for the admission of United States citizenship of 25 applicants for naturalization here present in this courtroom, including 15 applicants for a motion in court for legal name change. Each of the applicants has been exempt by an officer of the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Each applicant has been found to be a person of good moral character who has resided in the United States for the period of time required by the statute. Each has been found to be favorably disposed to the good order of happiness in the United States, and each is familiar with the history of the United States, the principles of the Constitution and form of government of the United States. No objection to their admission has been found. Therefore, Your Honor, I respectfully move that each of the applicants here present be admitted to United States citizenship, that the court grant the motion for name changes to those applicants who requested it upon taking the oath of allegiance as required by the statute.
Thank you, and I'm happy to grant that motion. Now, before you take the oath, which is up here on the screen, before you take the oath of allegiance to the United States, it's my job this morning to explain to you its meaning. And it has two parts. In the first part, you will renounce any allegiance you previously had to any prince, potentate, state, or sovereign. After you take the oath here this morning, you will owe all of your allegiance to the United States. The allegiance you held to the country from which you came will be destroyed as if it never existed. Of course, that doesn't mean that you have to forget or deny your heritage. Indeed, one of the things that makes the United States a special country, in my opinion, is the fact that people of so many different backgrounds and cultures and traditions live here, side by side. And many immigrants to this country continue to enjoy the traditions of the country from which they came. And by becoming citizens of the United States, you don't have to give up those traditions that are important to you. But if any of you are unwilling to renounce your allegiance to your former country, raise your hand and your petition for naturalization will be withdrawn and dismissed. Okay, seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to the second part of the oath. In the second part of the oath, You will swear to support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. The Constitution was adopted over 230 years ago, and its purpose is set forth in its preamble, which is to establish justice, to ensure domestic tranquility, to provide for the common defense, to promote the general welfare, and to secure the blessings of liberty. And the Constitution sets forth the principles upon which this country was founded. It establishes the three branches of our federal government. The legislative branch, which is in the form of Congress, consisting of the House of Representatives and the Senate. The executive branch, the powers of which are vested in the president, and the judicial branch. Now, as I was explaining to the group that was here at 9 o'clock, gotta go back to when the Constitution was drafted. You're in the late 1700s. This new country has just fought England in the Revolutionary War. And the whole country basically consisted of 13 states all along what we now know as the Eastern Seaboard. And you didn't travel a lot from one state to the next. If you lived in Pennsylvania, you may live your whole life and never leave your state. People didn't move about like they do today. It was much harder to do. And each state had their own constitution. And when there was talk about a federal constitution, a national constitution that would apply to all states, some people got very nervous about that. That started to sound a lot like what they had just fought the Revolutionary War over. And this guy, you gave him a different name, you call him a president rather than the king, but he sounds a lot like a king. And a lot of people were worried about a federal government. And there was a lot of resistance to it. And they were worried about the language in the Constitution being misconstrued and the powers that invested in these three branches of government being abused. So Congress proposed 10 amendments to the Constitution, which we now know as the Bill of Rights. And in the Bill of Rights, they attempted to guarantee to themselves and to their children, and now to you and to your children, certain fundamental rights, such as freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures, freedom from imprisonment without a fair trial, and so on. Indeed, one of our jobs as federal judges is to make sure the federal government doesn't do anything to infringe on those rights. So, for example, if we conclude that you have been the victim of an unreasonable search and seizure, any evidence seized can't be used against you in at trial. Now, in the 230 years since the Constitution was adopted, there have been occasions when the collective wisdom of the people of the country was that change was needed, that the way things were wasn't okay, was not acceptable. So there have been additional amendments to the Constitution. For example, in 1803, so 15 years after the Constitution was adopted, the 12th Amendment was passed, revising the presidential election procedures so that the president and the vice president were elected together. The first few elections, whoever lost the election to be president became the vice president. So if we still followed that model today, our president would be Joe Biden and our vice president would be Donald Trump. You can see how that probably wouldn't work very well. And they saw that back then and realized, this is maybe not a great way to pick our elected officials. So we'll have the president and the vice president run together. And that's the way it's been ever since. So then you didn't have any amendments for another 60 years. Then you get to the Civil War. And you have 3 amendments arising out of the Civil War that all relate to slavery. So you start with the 13th Amendment, which was passed in 1865, outlawing slavery, made it illegal. 3 years later, in 1868, the 14th Amendment is passed. And in the 14th Amendment, it states that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person the equal protection of the laws. And 2 years later, in 1870, the 15th Amendment was passed, giving black men the right to vote. And I say black men because no women of any race had the right to vote. That didn't happen until 50 years later, when in 1920, after the conclusion of World War I, all women were finally given the right to vote with the passage of the 19th Amendment. Altogether, there have been 27 amendments to the US Constitution, the last of which was roughly 30 years ago. But the basic principles set forth in the Constitution have endured, even though there have been debate and argument about what the language of the Constitution means. The evolving interpretation of the Constitution has allowed this country to evolve from what was at that time, back in the late 1700s, a largely agricultural society, to the industrial world power that the United States is today. Of course, when the Constitution was written, there was no electricity, certainly no automobiles, airplanes, telephones, radio, cell phones, no computers, internet. Think of how the world has changed just during your lifetime. When the Bill of Rights said that people shall not be subject to unreasonable searches and seizures, they were thinking about searches in your house, in your barn, certainly a search of your person. They clearly weren't thinking about a search of your cell phone or your computer. And yet the language in the Constitution and the principles are so basic and fundamental that they apply today just as much as they did when they were written over 230 years ago. Now, nobody is claiming that the United States is a perfect country. It has too many poor, too many people are without jobs, way too many people are imprisoned. And racism, amazingly, continues to be a problem. Some of you may have a different view of the United States, viewing it from the outside. You may have very different opinions than those of us who've lived our whole lives here. You've obviously concluded you want to become citizens of the United States. We're very grateful about that. But as new citizens, if you disagree with something that the United States is doing, you can and should voice your opinion and work for change. Understand that being a United States citizen means you're free. You're free to think on your own, to form your own opinions, to say what you want to say, even if what you have to say is unpopular. You're free to read what you want to read, practice any religion or no religion at all. That decision being completely up to you. But with that freedom comes responsibility. The responsibility to participate in the democratic process by voting. And by doing so, not casually, but by doing so in a thoughtful and informed way. You have a responsibility to educate yourself so that when you do vote, you make an informed decision about who you're voting for. Our democracy only works when its citizens participate fully by helping to choose those who will govern us all and by taking that process seriously. From my perspective, if you don't vote, you shouldn't voice or criticize the choices of those people who do vote. By taking this oath here this morning, you will all have the right to vote. And I hope you take advantage of that very important right. So, having said all that, at this time, we turn to the oath. And I'd like each of the applicants to stand and raise your right hand. And repeat after me. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely and entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. That I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law. That I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law. And that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. Let me be the first to congratulate you all on becoming citizens of the United States of America. Let's have some applause for our new citizens. So you feeling different? You look the same. So at this point, they have some certificates to hand out to you all. And I'll stick around if you want to. I'll be around. So congratulate you all.
Thank you.
All right. All right. You may be seated. Officer Moore is going to hand out your certificates at this podium, because that's one at a time. So we will call you from your chair. Please have that appointment letter that I told you to leave out. That is what you need to hand to him to receive your certificate. Okay, so if you guys are waiting for a photo, you might want to say, because we have to be able to let people move out, so we have another ceremony. So if you're waiting for a photo, you can stand on that side, and don't get it.
You're welcome.
You want a photo with him, somebody's gonna take it for you, or? Oh, you guys can help each other, we can touch your camera. Yeah, I have one after. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. This is better than this. You're one smiling, can't see them. You're welcome.
If you put one screen on over here, if you're waiting.